Okay, so good day. It happens to be good evening here. I hope you are all doing well. I want to take you through how to go about the hypothesis development so that you can start working on the partial least square, the partial least squares structural equation module, the paper that we have started working on. So one of the things that you need to do, which is extremely important, is that you need to develop your hypothesis. So the question is, where do you develop the hypothesis from? Okay, before I continue, I want to also make this known to you that any material that we'll be using in this tutorial video, they are purposely for education, just to teach the students, or to teach you the students. I don't have any intentions of making profits or gaining any financial advantage from it. So, and all the materials here have been cited for use fairly for illustration purposes. Okay, so thank you so much. We are going into the hypothesis development. So what do you need? So first, we need to define what hypothesis is. So the question is, what is hypothesis? So a little bit Google search, which I want us all to do it, is, so let's look at it. So what are hypotheses? So hypotheses are often specific predictions about what will happen in a particular study. So what will happen in a particular study? What are you expecting from a particular study? So basically, before any researcher will conduct any research, the researcher, under circumstance, will expect something to come out of the research. So by making that predictions, we can form what we call hypothesis. Another time, I will take you through the other one, which is also called prepositions. Preposition. When do you need that? But here, I'm going to work with hypothesis. And hypotheses are normally related to what we call deductive. That is deductive research, deductive reasoning. So read more about that. Deductive. So read more about deductive research. Read more about it. So find out what's the meaning of deductive research. You come to understand this. Okay. So how do you, the question is, how do you develop the hypothesis? And when do we develop hypothesis? So they are developed by considering existing evidence and using reasoning to infer what will happen in the specific context of interest. So hypotheses are often but not always derived from theories. So I really like the last statement. So you can develop your hypothesis from theories, but it's not always the case. So what are theories? So theories are established models, established assumptions, established school of thoughts that a large people in the scientific community, they have agreed to use. And normally, something that the larger scientific community has agreed to use, they have agreed to use, is something that has gone through so many years of data analysis, data testing, and then a whole lot of discussions and all that, including empirical and practical tests have been conducted to approve it. So you can read more about what theories are about. Okay, so you can develop your hypothesis through theory or through literature. So by theory, what are theories? So by theory, I mean you look for well-known theories concerning your area of study. So let me give you some of them. So theory of plant behavior. So you can undertake a research, and the research will be based on the theory of plant behavior. Many of you, I think, you have come across something like that, or you have used them in your studies before. So you have theory of plant behavior, and this theory has already been established by the larger scientific community that they explain the way things are done in terms of behavioral changes and all that. So you can undertake your study by taking this theory, and you take the key constructs. We call these ones constructs. We call these things constructs. And later on, I'll explain them. So you also call the latent variables. Okay, so you can establish your work, you can relate your work to these constructs, and based on these constructs, you can conduct your study. Another thing too is that you can also finish conducting your study. You can use these theories to explain your study. So all these things can be done. Then we have a theory of something like cost behavior or cost transaction, especially those of you who are QS, you are into project cost management. So the theory of transaction cost theory rather, transaction cost theory. So with the transaction cost theory too, you can also come up with transaction theory. So you can use the components of these theories. And these theories normally is either one person or a group of scientists or a group of researchers. They have over the years have used them, they have tested them, and the larger scientific community have agreed that they are very important. They form basis of study, they form basis of reasoning, they form basis of explanation to so many things. A theory will only change, or a theory will no more be considered a theory once the larger scientific community have also conducted further studies, and maybe they have come to see that that theory that has already been established is wrong. But even sometimes, some of the theories that later on they are proved to be wrong, we still continue to use them, and then we just say studies and researchers say is a build-up. The new ones that are published are seen as build-up to the old ones which are existing. Okay, so this you can, I mean, there are so many theories. So if you just Google theories, say one, we have evolution theory, Big Bang theory, so many theories depending on the area that you are. Every area, quantum theory, the theory of relativity, I think so, by the Albert Einstein. Yeah. So there are a lot of them. Okay. So these theories have been tested and they have been approved by a larger research community of scientific community, and they are being used until something will be done to disprove them or we see them to be wrong. They will continue to be established theory. Okay. You can also decide to develop your theory, develop your hypothesis from what we call literature. So what is that? It's basically based on what I've taught you so far, where we did literature review. So what do you do? So what you have to do is that if you want to develop your hypothesis, how do you develop your hypothesis from literature? What do you have to do? You have to argue based on the studies that people have conducted. So I'm going to give you an example. If I have Google Scholar, for example, and I decide to look at something like climate change, okay, and construction index. So all that I need to do is assemble some papers from here on climate change, climate change, and then construction project. I can assemble maybe the recently published articles, let's say 10, 20, 50 70 of them. So once I take these articles, I can just decide that when I am arguing, I can say that, for example, Bombardi and Sipagosa said that indeed climate change has an impact on construction projects. Also, in another study, Fauzi, Osman, and Duran also supported that climate change can only be mitigated if proper measures are put in place. So with these things said, or with these things explained, then we can hypothesize that indeed climate change has an impact on construction projects. But the thing about hypothesis is that you need to help us to know. If you just say climate change has an impact, what kind of impact? Positive, negative. So you need to be specific. So you can say that climate change has a positive, for example, you can say, which we all know is negative, but you say climate change has a positive impact on construction projects. Then once you make this hypothesis, then the next thing to do is to test. That's where this hypothesis will come in. You get a point. Okay, so I'm going to give you some papers that people have written, and they argued there. Today I'll just give you one. You can also decide to go and look for other other articles where studies were conducted using hypothesis to argue, but I'll try and see whether I can get one or two for you. But I have some papers here where studies were used, literature were used to argue for a hypothesis. But before that, I want to take you through some steps. I saw something online which I thought is very important. You can go through it so that you have an idea. So this is being taken from a website called cwauthors.com. And this is how they explain hypothesis. So here they say a hypothesis. So hypothesis is a singular and the plural is hypothesis. Is a statement of prediction about the outcome of a study. In a hypothesis, a tentative relationship is stated between the independent variable and then the dependent variable. The independent variable and independent variable is trying to tell us that there is something like a causative relationship, or there is a relationship between two categories of variables. We'll see them later. Yes, so because this is just the beginning. I'll take you to the point where I'll help you to understand these independent variables and then the dependent variables. Because one thing about structural equation modeling is that the structural equation modeling combines an element of regression and then other statistical methods. So, and doing that, so you need two categories of variables. You need the dependent variables and then the independent variables. Okay, so with the prediction of outcome, it is based on the existing body of knowledge in an area of study and developed before the data are collected. Know that some research, however, does not lend itself to hypothesis. Okay, so some research or some studies don't need hypothesis, especially if the study is exploratory study. Okay, into a new topic about which limited information is available. So most or almost all exploratory studies don't use hypothesis. But once again, it depends. It depends. But this is a highly contested. This is a highly contested statement that I have made. Yeah. So I'll take you through in my next video as to the meaning of what we call prepositions. So in that case, you can come up with what you call prepositions and other stuff. Okay, so how do you develop a hypothesis? A hypothesis originates from existing theories. So that's one. So I mentioned existing theories, well-known theories, like Big Bang theory, like transaction cost theory, like the theory of planned behavior, or hypothesis. So either you get your hypothesis from an existing theory, or as so here they have even given three. So existing theory, previous research, this is where the empirical state, which I'll show you one or two, and commonly held beliefs. So even beliefs, but the reason why I don't want to take you through the belief system is that normally some people argue they are not empirically tested. So I'll base more on the theories, existing theories, and then the previous studies or previous articles. The scientific method usually begins with the formulation of research problem and a research question. So anytime you are writing any research, you need to formulate your research problem. And research problems normally will give us the reason why you are conducting the study. Because every study is conducted to solve a problem. So if you are conducting a study that the study is not, it has no locus, has no purpose of addressing a problem, then that study is not a study. You have to stop it. And a research question. This is followed by background research, literature review. Yeah. So the literature review will come in, and in doing the literature review, and even after doing the literature review, you can form your hypothesis from here. The information gathered set the stage for drawing up a hypothesis. Good. Data are then collected, analyzed, and interpreted to support or negate the hypothesis. So after developing our hypothesis, the next thing that I'll take you through is how to collect the data. And this one, many of you know how to go about it. It's not going to be a problem. The methodology and the data collection aspect. But the analysis aspect is the issue. It's where the problem is. And that's where we are going to apply the PLS-SEM, including the interpretation. Okay, so what is the difference between a hypothesis and a research question? This is a question that many people ask. The research question addresses a research problem, which might be a challenge, doubt, gap, or area of concern that warrants investigation. That's true. A research question gives your research a clear direction and helps you to focus on key issues that need to be solved. Yeah, so that's it. So normally research question and a research problem will motivate you to undertake a study. The hypothesis on the other side is considered to be a translation of the research question into a prediction. So when you translate your research question into a prediction, it becomes a hypothesis. Often the question on its own is not enough to outline the experiment needed to answer it. Therefore, a hypothesis, or the best educated guess, as people call it, is used to answer the question is generated. The difference between the two will be illustrated in the next steps. Okay, so with respect to hypothesis, you need to go through some steps. So the first thing that you have to do is you need to collect your literature, as we have done. I've taken you through how to do literature review for the topic. Then examine the literature, and then identify possible causes of the problem or gaps. So just like what we did, and then after that, I came up with some emerging gaps. If you look at our paper, begin with a specific research. For example, the association of the intake of fish oil has been studied in relation with heart and brain health in adults. That fish oil has been found to strengthen immune responses. However, its effect on immunity in children remains unknown. So in this context, we can identify two things from this preamble. What we can identify is that we can identify two variables. The first variable being the independent variable is the fish oil intake. The dependent variable will be the effects on. So these independent variables of oil intake, their effect on immunity in children. So from here, you formulate another circumstance. You are writing your paper, you are doing your thesis, you formulate your research question. For example, what are the effects of fish oil capsules on immunity to influenza in children? So you formulate a question like this. Then you now translate your question into what? You translate your question into a hypothesis. So we hypothesize that the daily intake of fish oil capsules increases immunity to influenza in children. That's it. Then from here, the now and then the alternative hypothesis will come in. So if you want to know what is null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis, I have another video on the PLS-SEM. Check it. It's online. Check it and then watch it. I've distinguished between what a null hypothesis is and then an alternative hypothesis is. So that's it. So after this, after you have come up with your hypothesis, then what you have to do is now you go ahead and go and test it. How do you test? Now you need to get data, and the data you do the rest of the other things. You look at them later on. You determine or you analyze what you call a test statistic. You determine your rejection or acceptance region, and then you interpret once you either accept or reject based on the now and the alternative hypothesis. And then you draw your conclusions, and that's the end. Yeah, so that's it. So at this point, as I mentioned, I'll take you through some of the studies that people have done. This paper is a paper written, but I sent it to you by Dr. Bashir Tijani. Okay, so in this paper, first the paper provided examples of theories underlying their study. But one thing about what this researcher did was that this researcher didn't continue to extract the hypothesis from these theories. So he presented 3 theories: resource-based theories, agency theory, institutional theories. But the hypotheses were not drawn from here. So what they did was that they went ahead to rather use the empirical literature, what is already in the literature. So for example, on project governance, this is what they said. I just want to just read 1 or 2 of them to you, and then we go, because I can't read all of them. I think it would be better I take you to where the hypothesis was developed. That would be far better. Yeah, so let me take you to where the hypothesis was developed. For the sake of time, I'll just pick 1 or 2. I can't read all of them so that we don't waste too much time. Okay, so for example, the hypothesis developing based on the literature, he explained what is project governance, integrated project delivery, and all that. So what I want you guys to do is that, for example, in our work, the key elements, which I'm going to share it with you. Some of you will write about green finance. Some of you will write about ESG, and some of you will write about project performance. In each case, I will expect that first you do a little bit of general literature review on each of them, something like green finance, in project management, and then when it comes to ESG, a little bit of literature on ESG in project management, and then project performance, just like how it has been done here. So if you look at all this section, for example, all the key constructs were explained. Okay, so I just want you to do that. So what is project governance? And blah, 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 and all that. So let's come here. So now the hypothesis is going to be formed based on the literature review. So this is not a case where hypothesis is being developed from theories. So once again, in my next video, what I'll try to do is that I'll show you a paper where theories were formed, hypotheses were formed from theories. But in this example, in this video, I'm showing you how hypotheses have been developed from existing literature. Okay, so let's go here. So here he tried to relate, based on the existing literature, he tried to relate project governance, integrated delivery, and knowledge management together. So let's see what he said. Although this philosophical principle is scarce, in other words, although the relationship between these three are scarce, nevertheless, extending the investigation to this approach is pertinent to uncover structural elements shaping mental health practices. Drawing on institutional theory, project governance impact mental health outcomes in AEC project organizations by internal regulations controlling the development of project management competencies, project performance control, placement of project managers, commitment of resources, decision-making on project procedure in relation between parties in a project. Combination of these governance activities encourages project management activities that create work conditions, including availability of enough resources, possession of relevant project skills, reasonable workload, and good stakeholders relationships antecedent to mental health. Project governance impacts the mental health of PMPs through development of project management competencies, of project learning, provision of clear project direction, and commitment of enough project resources. Adequate competencies and clear project direction prevent skill discretion and rule of ambiguity causing poor mental health among PMPs. Moreover, project learning enhances the creation and shaping of knowledge within and across projects to mitigate poor project knowledge, imposing the psychological strain on project managers. Commitment of enough resources by the project governance improves positive mental health through prevention of project overload and work-life conflict. Therefore, it is hypothesized that. Okay, so here, what you can see that he's just trying to bring in the theory, but the fact of the matter is that, like, he's trying to use the theory to explain the project governance, integrated project delivery, and project management. But if you can see, the theory was not really visible. It was also clear. He mentioned, but it's not that so clear. Yeah, so it's good, but it's a little bit ambiguous. It's not so clear. So here, what I can see is that he tried to combine the two. He tried to combine theory and literature. Okay, which can also be done. Which can also be done. So here he ended up by hypothesizing that project governance specifically related to mental health in AEC project organizations. Then he went ahead to explain this, and then ended by saying that this also affects this. Okay, so in a nutshell, what I can say is that with this paper, he tried to just combine the theories with the literature, like the empirical literature, empirical studies. So there's a little bit of confusion here. But in his other paper, I think that was a bit, it was clearer comparative to this. Just give me a minute. Okay, so yeah, that's it. It was supposed to be the case of the theories have been combined with empirical literature. Yeah, but I was just trying to look at a situation where Solely the literature was used to explain this. Okay, so yeah, this can be done. It can be done this way. This is acceptable. Given this relationship between project management activities and work stress, linking mental health, logically sustainable. Okay, so here, yeah, so here, the economic atmosphere in which the AEC industry plays in the okay, good. So here, the explanation has been done based on purely what people have said in the current literature. Okay. Unlike this paper, his other paper, where he tried to bring in the theory or the theoretical underpinning. Okay. But in all, I would advise that when trying to explain some of these things, rather use this paper, the second paper. I think that is far better. Better in the sense that when you use existing literature, just like trying to do literature review and after you are done with the literature review and then you are trying to present the results. You present the results by looking at what the scholars found or what the scholars presented as their finding. Yeah, so you have to do the same. Have to do the same in this context. Okay, so let me take another, maybe take one more, maybe one. I was just trying to look at maybe one will be fine. Okay, so here too, also in addition, he also tried to bring in it. So institutional theory provides theoretical opinion on why legal factors exist forces on inner organizational component. Legal establish those legal factors. Legal factors are established regulations or legal issues or legal factors. To guide activities of organizations in society. National state, the Employment and Labor Act, blah, 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 assistance studies, legal studies designed to workplace and merit. So therefore, the hypothesize that legal factors are to mental health. That's good. So it's like, once again, you are trying to, or he tried to use some studies in the past to explain. Good. I think I like this one too. This is also good. It's just addition to what I've taken you through. Okay, so this paper is from Rogers, Antecedents of Stakeholder Management in Public-Private Partnerships in Uganda. Okay, so let's see how the hypothesis was done. So to understand what I explained to you from the beginning, where I said you can develop your hypothesis from either from empirical studies or from an established theory, please do your best to read other articles. Don't base on the 2 or 3 articles I sent to you. If it's based only on them, you're going to have a narrow view of how hypotheses are developed. And it's going to affect you for the rest of your studies. So try and read other papers. Okay, so here what they did was that I like also this paper, how it was done. For example, starting from here. So this is what I was talking about. So Hijiweri, example, in their study, noted that it is important to manage communication process to complete the loop in managing project stakeholders. Chong noted that, you see, so this is what I was talking about. So after explaining all these things that other people said, then they said from the above discussion, we can conclude that effective stakeholder communication creates, shapes, maintains relationships, and endorses mutual understanding between the project and its stakeholders. We therefore hypothesize the following. Stakeholder communication positively associates with stakeholder management. Okay, good. Okay, so the last thing, let me take about 2 to 5 minutes to do this exercise in order not to let you have a narrow view of how to form hypothesis. Because the papers I sent these two papers to you, and these two papers, what the Dr. Bashir did was that he tried to combine theories and the empirical studies, which is a little bit confusing. So I don't want you to be confused. You can use his approach, which is okay, but in order not to have a narrow view of how hypotheses are developed and also not to be confused, I want us to look at some other articles. Um, some recently published articles, which I believe will at least give you an idea about um, what I'm talking about. Mm, let's look at, okay. So somebody will ask, Isaac, why are we looking at all these things? We have to look at all these things. We have to look at the hypothesis development because what we are doing is more of a quantitative analysis. It's a deductive research. For deductive research, you need to take a hypothesis development. Okay. I'm trying to see whether this paper will be available to us. Yes, we look at the hypothesis, how the hypothesis was developed. Okay. So here, no hypothesis was developed. That's fine. Sometimes I think this is more of a conference paper, so it's not a full paper. So, so, mm, yeah, okay. There's a paper by Dr. Kuka. Let's see whether Dr. Kuka did hypothesis development. Okay. So here the hypotheses were rather summarized. Okay. This was not really explained. Explanation is just something small. Okay. That's good, but this is not a detailed hypothesis development. Yeah, that's fine. That's good. That's good. Looking for another. Okay. Okay, so this one too, the hypothesis was not developed. Um, okay. I have this. Wow. But Tim didn't really take time to explain. Only the teacher was done, but the hypothesis was not thoroughly explained. Okay, let me try this. Okay. Anyway, okay, that's fine. Um, wait, wait, wait. Since we were on PLS-SEM, it seems most of them didn't really present the hypothesis. Because in most cases, the hypothesis is presented. Mm, okay. This is hypothesis. Mm, yeah. So you can see from here that this was also explained, and then they ended up by hypothesizing that joint contrast functions are associated with PPP, which is just an example. Okay. So please, what you have to do is just look at the number of papers and just look at the hypothesis development aspect. And the reason why you really need this thing is that if the hypothesis is not developed well, it's going to have effects on the overall paper that we are writing. Okay. So without wasting time, I want to give you what you are supposed to do. I want to give you the work as to the sections that you are supposed to write. Instead of the green finance, I'll lead you Collins. The hypothesis is that green finance will have expansion of the performance. So it's that construction project simple. Then the second one has to do with ESG. So your task in this work, so this is just the hypothesis for that thing. So your task is one, you need to review, give us a general overview of green finance. Okay, give us a green finance. And then with respect to the hypothesis development, you decide on how you want to go about the hypothesis development. But I would prefer you develop the hypothesis from literature, from critical literature. Don't just explain from critical literature. Don't really worry yourself talking about an, an established or established theories. Because we don't have enough established theories on green finance. Okay. ESG, that will go to IMA. Um, no, I'll bring a lady here, Sammy. So Ben should come here. When we were supposed to be here. Yes. Just give me a minute. ESD. Email. Um, Elvis. Or what? Michael. Or any champion. You are on instruction. Okay. So, another person, this is how I want the whole study to be like visual. Illustrate visual. So I want the thing to be. I initially started by saying that we should go the way of the green finance being a mitigating factor. But I've realized that the green finance being a mitigating factor isn't really going to help. I've not been able to get enough grounding, enough evidence, enough empirical literature to support that. So I'd rather go for the green finance being a mediating factor. Mediating factor. I'm going to draw it for you quickly. Then I'll bring the recording to an end. Okay, so we click on removing the sorry for the delay. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is that I have this, I have that. So these are the um, so I'm making this kind of red. I'll make it yellow because red is not good. Yellow is somehow replaceable. Okay, so these are the three components that we are dealing with. But later on, I'll work on them for you to see as to how they relate. Okay, so these are the components of what we call the latent variables or the constructs. So here we are hypothesizing that this is what we call, just give me a minute, let me connect them, then I'll explain. Okay, so these are the hypotheses. I'm hypothesizing that ESG has an impact. ESG disclosures has an impact on finance, green finance has an impact on project performance. This context of a project construction project simple. So this is how it's being hypothesized. Okay, so that's a general this thing. So this is a theoretical framework. Okay, for now. Which later on I'll modify, but for now that's the idea. Okay. So you do a review on ESG disclosures as Ima, Alidu, and Sami. And Arimea, Elvis, and Michael, you work on um, saying that you work on reviewing literature on construction projects. But here, I want you to look at this more from sustainable construction projects. I'll be happy if you're able to do this in the light of construction projects. So here, we want to so, 22, but we need to have three. One, two, three. Right? Okay, ESG projects. This projects the performance. Yes, that's it. ESG disclosures. Loose. Yeah. Can also be the other way around. So yeah. So I would depart with you. Okay. I'll go deeper with you. Forget about this timeline for now. I need you to get it. I mean, understand the basic stuff, then I'll bring you back. So this is your task. Okay, so give us a literature review and then the hypothesis, also deliver the hypothesis. So each of you, I'm expecting each of the sections, I'm expecting 5 pages. If there are 3 pages maximum. 3 pages are even too much. Okay, 3 pages, including the literature review. Okay, literature review, every literature review. These 3 pages are excluding so that's all for now, and I wish you all the best, and we will meet again probably in my next video. So have a good time and take care. Bye bye.